Hello, and welcome to Stephoodle. I am back again, Steph. I want to start off by thanking you all for sticking around during my hiatus. As I mentioned in my community tab, there were a lot of things going on in my personal life, and I don't really want to get into them. Suffice it to say, I'm in a stable place now. I've been taking time for myself, and I still am, and I've finally been able to get back to dolls again, which is great, because I really didn't want to give up on this collab. It's MerMay, and Nick from I Could Do That DIY invited me and several of our doll friends to create merfolk. So after you're done with this video, make sure to go check out all of the other videos in this collab. As I'm still getting back into the swing of things, I decided to make something more along the lines of a classic mermaid. But of course, I am me, and I still made her a little bit extra. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get to the doll. Looking through my stock box, I decided Margot from Rainbow High would be a perfect option. Yes, I know she's from Pacific Coast High, but it's the Rainbow High line. It's fine. I plan on keeping her hair and trying my hand at customizing factory eyes this time. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with her hair, but I knew that if I wanted to boil wash it, the tinsel would unfortunately have to go. I used my hairdryer to heat up the head and soften the vinyl to make it easier to remove. Then I heat up the vinyl around the eyes and use a chopstick to push them out from the inside. It's always very creepy and very satisfying. I know I say that every time, but it's true. Then I began carefully pulling out the strands of tinsel one by one. It was pretty easy to do, but a little tedious. I ended up doing this in front of the TV for a couple of hours. And this is all of the tinsel I ended up pulling out. Eesh. Now I can use pure acetone to wipe off the factory paint. I need to customize the eyes before I do anything else so I can get them back in the head before the face up. I use a craft knife to carefully pry the pieces apart. I pull off the lashes. Then I plop all of the parts into some isopropyl alcohol to soak. After a couple of hours, I'm able to remove the glue that held the lashes on, as well as most of the white paint. Then the main parts go back in the alcohol to soak for a couple more hours. I did this several times, even letting them soak overnight at one point, removing the iris bit by bit, layer by layer, until they were completely clean. I grabbed my oval template, which I've had since university, don't ask how long ago that was, and found one that closely matched the size of the irises. I traced several out onto a piece of Bristol board. I'll be using these Posca paint pens and some dragonfly glaze to paint the irises. I start with filling in the ovals with black. Once dry, I go in with the purple. And apologies for the jump here, I actually ended up having to do this whole process twice since I messed up the first pair of eyes I made. I ended up using my hairdryer this time to dry the paint in between colors. It worked really well. I added a few highlights in silver, then added the green. I used a fine liner to draw out the shape of the pupil and then filled it in with black. Add catch lights with the silver and refine the shape with black again. Once I have a pair of irises I'm happy with, I separate them from the rest and add the dragonfly glaze on top, which I forgot to hit record for. Oops. It's time to attach the irises with UV resin. Because I had trouble with this part last time, I created this rig with a ramekin, chopsticks, and sticky tack, and I placed my UV lamp on top of a mirror. I carefully spread UV resin on the eyes and placed the irises on top, nudging them into place. Then I slide them under the UV lamp and cure them. Once that's done, I flip them over and hold them under the UV lamp for a second time, just to make sure everything is completely cured. And here they are! I painted the scleras black. When they're dry, I snap the eyepieces back together. And here's what they look like now. And now begins the arduous task of putting the eyes back in the head. Please enjoy the live sounds of my frustration, slightly edited down of course because it took a long time. Oh my god. How? It was at this point that I looked up an ex-Canadensis video about swapping rainbow high eyes to see if there was a better technique than whatever it was that I was trying. And I went in again. Oh, that's something. Okay, how? Like, it's in there, it's just not in there good. This is what I've got right now. Oh my god. As you can hear, it was a struggle. No! Oh, come on. This is a nightmare. Oh, there we go. I had to push it out and push it back in again. But it's in. It looks pretty good. Now I gotta... now I gotta do this one. We got there in the end, but goodness, I do not know how people do this after a face-up. No clue. Next time, I'm going back to cutting out a head cap for sure. This was too much. I masked off the eyes with tape and gave the head 2 sprays of Mr. Super Clear UV Cut Flat, waiting 30 minutes in between each layer. This is actually my second face-up for this doll, as the first one just wasn't working for me. I map out the eyeliner with a light pink watercolor pencil. I add the first layer of blushing with chalk pastels. I'll be building this up over several layers. And I finish nearly every layer with a dusting of Macro Pearl Pearl-X powder. Then I give her another spray of MSC, and I do this every time I want to save my progress or I can't build up any more pigment. On the next layer, I fill the eyeliner in with purple. I wasn't sure at this stage if I was going to leave it purple or if I was going to go over it with black. I fill in the lips with a metallic purple pencil and used a brush dipped in water to spread the pigment around more evenly. Once dry, I gently erase the edges to soften them. I map out her brows with white pan pastel, then go over them with a white watercolor pencil. I wanted them to be soft and rounded, and I ended up with these sort of orange section-like shapes, but I like them. I decided to paint the eyeliner black at this stage. I do like having a color under the black though, as it usually gives it more depth in the end. I used more pan pastels to color the brows, mimicking the colors of her hair. I wanted to try giving her an ombre lip, so I carefully pat on black pan pastel and blend it out as best I can. I don't know how successful I was, but I like how it comes out in the end. I add white highlights to make everything pop. And with one final dusting of sparkle, the face up is done. Time to work on her tail. I'll be using these fabrics. I'm using a Requiem Art Designs pattern, but I've modified it a little bit because I can never not modify patterns. I ended up sewing everything in the wrong order though, but it all works out in the end. I'll be using jump rings and ribbon to create a corset lacing detail on the front. First I add the jump rings with ribbon and hem the black piece. Then I sew the back pieces to the front pieces along the sides. And then I sew up the back partway. Moving on to the fins. My fabric wasn't wide enough to cut these in one piece, so I'll need to attach the two pieces together. Then I decided that I wanted to add some detail to the fins before I sewed the front and back pieces together. I sketched out a design on the pattern piece and used my light box to trace it onto the backs of the fins. I sewed along the lines with black thread. I ended up separating the fins again to make it easier to sew, so Then I sewed the fronts and backs together and reattached them in the center. I made snips around the edge and turned them right side out. I was thinking about top stitching the edges, but I thought I'd double check the fabric to see if I could get away with ironing them, and I could. So I did it in sections using a tea towel to protect them. Then I had to gather the top of the fins, stuff them into the tail, and sew it all together at the bottom. Then I can flip everything right side out. Next, I gather the hip pins and attach them to the tail along with the waistband. The last things to do were to add a closure to the back and add the ribbon lacing to the front. But I noticed something when trying the tail of the doll. The tail looks a bit weird around the feet. So I'll also be stuffing some leftover yarn fluff in the bottom of the tail to make it look a bit nicer. And here it is all done! I am really glad that I was able to take the vision in my head and make it into a real thing. Now for the top. I wanted to do something a bit different, so I went for a long-sleeved cropped turtleneck. I created this pattern using the plastic wrap and masking tape method. I'll also be reusing the small hip fin from the Requiem Art Designs tail pattern for a frill at the shoulders. Here are all my pattern pieces cut out. First, I'll be attaching the front side sections to the center front section. Next, I attach the back pieces to the front at the shoulders. I gather the frills and attach them to the sleeves before sewing the sleeves onto the bodice. I also attach the collar piece at the neckline. Next, I'll hem the top of the collar and the bottom of the sleeves, and then sew the side seams. I'll also color the underside of the frills black so the white underside isn't distracting. Should I have done this before sewing? Yes. Did I? Of course not. Now to turn this thing right side out. And there we go. Now I just need to hem the bottom and add a closure to the back. And here's the full look. Upon further inspection, I've decided I want to add some iridescent beads to the top as a sort of necklace detail. I ended up adding a couple of strands of beads to the hips as well, to tie it all together, and I really like how it turned out. It looks really cool. I blushed the body and painted her nails off camera, and I gave her hair a boil wash. Now let's get that head reattached. I add gloss varnish to her lips to give them some shine. I decided to make a wired head bow for her, so I came up with this shape. I also want to add a bit of holographic fabric as well, but I'll be cutting it with these scalloped pinking shears. It'll end up looking something like this. I lay my pieces together, good side to good side, and sew all the way around, leaving a gap for turning. After I snip the edges and turn it right side out, I press it flat. Before stitching it closed, I twist some wire together and cut it to the right length, folding over the edges and wrapping them in tape. I then stick it inside the bow and close the opening. I sew a strip of black around the center and bend the bow into shape. Off camera, I added a braid to her hair. And now I'll attach the head bow with pins. And here she is. We have the doll, her top, and her tail. And now I just need to get her dressed, and she's done. A couple of folks in the group chat said she looked like a futuristic underwater pop star, and I totally agree. I wasn't sure what to name her. Usually I come up with one while I'm working on the doll, but this time I just didn't. And Alex and Barb from Enchanterium suggested something related to the moon or stars, since her eyes kind of look like the night sky. I ended up choosing the name Astra, and I think it really suits her. What do you think of Astra? And if you were a mer person, what colors would you want your tail to be? I'd probably go for either a pastel or a neon rainbow with black accents. Please, please, please make sure and go watch all the other videos in this collab, from I Could Do That DIY, BlurredColors Art, The Hatter Dolls, Electric Bunny OOAK, JackyOhhh, DollyPop, and Enchanterium. They all did an amazing job and made some absolutely gorgeous dolls, and I am so happy I was able to take part in this collab after all. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, Subscribe if you'd like to see more from me, and click the bell icon and turn on all notifications to make sure you know whenever I post a new video. As always, all of my social media will be linked down below. I'm most active on Instagram, and I'll hopefully start streaming again soon, just to have fun and hang out. I'll keep you up to date in my community tab to let you know when that's happening. And if you really like what I do and you want to buy me a coffee, you can either click the super thanks button below this video, or you can find a link to my Ko-fi tip jar down below in the description. Remember to be kind to yourselves. And until next time, bye!